This is the best show ever, meaning that, well, we're going to talk about the best things. So if that's your thing, then this is the best Tech Talk Taco Tuesday ever. We have Jay from Dirt Bike TV on Instagram and we banter about all the things. And at the end of the show, we talk about the best bike ever built. So hang on for the ride. Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is show number 197. This is going to be the best show ever for many different reasons.
The best show ever.
And the reason is because the show's not really very good at all. It's just a podcast live show where we talk about motorcycles and motorcycle related products. I have a super special guest, Jay Clark from Dirt Bike TV. And I've known Jay for a long time. We were just kind of going, we did the show before the show, pre-show on Instagram, on Dirt Bike TV's little Instagram thing, but we're here live on our normal channels. And tonight I was out riding. I had a really good idea. I wanted to talk about the best of everything. And for sure, Jay was a guy to call because he's been on sort of the other side of the aisle for a lot of my career, where I got everything spoon-fed to me. And Jay was the guy that was providing a lot of this stuff to all different kinds of magazine editors and stuff. And I think we both come from this background where we want to give you a lot of really good, honest information. And I made a list of the best of questions. And we're going to finish this with the best bike ever. Right, Jay?
Yes. I think that's a good idea.
Jay's enamored by the technology involved in putting in. We just got the longest comment ever.
I saw that
from one JP Black.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh boy. He's probably worried that his top 20 show ranking could go down one tonight, because I think this is going to be, I'm calling it the best show. It could be the best show, but we're going to talk about the best stuff. So Jay, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
So I'm hearing that there might be some audio difficulties going on.
Generally, what we found, and you'll find that this is largely because people, it's on their end.
Oh, so
they don't have their stuff tuned up. I hear them fine.
I hear Jay fine, and our levels are looking good on our end.
Yeah, we have a lot of levels.
My people are saying that they're hearing two of our conversation, right?
Just Jimmy.
Just Jimmy. They're hearing two Jimmy.
Is your Instagram live?
That's because I'm not really talking much. He's probably talking. I can put
headphones. Yeah. I wonder if my phone's not playing the sound anymore. I can't hear me outside of here.
No, our chat's saying sound is good.
Yeah.
Chat is saying sound is good.
Everything's good. I don't know where you're getting this. There's a lot of false information on the internet. So you got to be careful, Jay.
Yeah.
Lots of false information.
Is it fine?
So the sounds, everybody's telling us this. YouTube, we can hear them fine. Bill Nielsen sounds good.
Okay.
Zach Humphrey says, I'm good here. I'm really good here too as well.
Do you have two devices with sound going out over there, Jay?
We do have. No, we just have the Instagram Live is still playing, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Donnie says we're fine. Are you listening on Instagram Live, or now you should go check the YouTube, check his YouTube and listen to that. All right, so we're ready to go. Let's just start rolling and see if we're good.
Let's start rolling. So where I wanted to start this, we talked about this. I wanted to start with the stock is best discussion and explain this. And you're a guy that makes a living modifying everything, and I'm a guy that. A lot of my career was paid for by advertising from a lot of aftermarket companies. And I think we would both say that and this is the way I want to paraphrase this, if I don't know anything about you, just you, the regular person, the person we're talking to right now, and you said, I want to get this or that, the biggest net I could throw out there, probably the most accurate I could get is to just throw out some sort of, tell me what kind of bike you're looking at, enduro, a dual sport bike, a motocross bike. Just one of the stock bikes would be the best thing. Is that accurate?
Yes, and I get a lot of questions. Guys writing me and asking me what to put on their bike next, what pipe to put on, and I love that people are going to buy the products for a lot of the companies I work with. But one of the first things I tell them to do is to make sure their bike is maintained well, that all their settings are good, their suspension has been serviced in the last 40, 50 hours, and that their settings are all correct, their sag is correct, they have correct springs. I always I like to ask them a few questions, say, hey, if you've done all that stuff, then doing this next step would be good for you. But to throw a pipe, let's say, on a bike that's not set up well, or an ECU, and doing different things before you have those other things addressed, and a stock bike. We know most stock bikes that come out in the last 5 years are all pretty dang good stock.
Really good, yes. And the thing is you think about the manufacturer that is building the bikes just stock. They're trying to fit the widest group of guys. And the reason it isn't, when we talk about you, the regular people, the reason that it isn't great for you is because you have special needs, and that's where the aftermarket comes in. And so if you're maybe a little bit taller and you might want a taller seat or some lower foot pegs, different bar bend than it is for a regular guy. You're a short guy and you might want your suspension lowered. That's where the modifications come in. But just as a blanket, stock bikes are really, really good. And when we pick our bike of the year, bike of the world, best bike ever, we're pretty much talking about the stock bike that we started with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Spoiler alert. we're gonna pick a stock bike at the end, but that's what that's what the basis is. But I'm still making a decision on my bike, but knowing the bike and then modifications really play into the bike that I'm going to pick. It's like, because you can modify it and do stuff with it, and then that. But anyways, okay, we're gonna get there. So that's why a lot of times we say stock is best, because stock is durable, stock is tested and proven, stock's going to fit a wide variety of people. So that works out. We're in agreement there. Okay, so I'm going to go with this. What is the bike that responded to modifications the best? So think about, okay, there's a stock bike with some problems, and then was there a bike that was just really easy to modify? And I have one in my head that I like. So can you answer this one?
Well, there's two bikes that popped ahead. First one is a motocross bike, is the YZ250F. Over the last 5 to 7 years, it doesn't take much to make that thing better. And then it's been proven with the race teams that have been racing them on all the different levels since 2014, since they started racing that bike. So basically we're looking at 10 years now, right, on that bike. That platform is similar platform. And that bike, with just a little bit of mods, got really good. And it did need a lot of money into the engine to make it durable, with valves, cam chains and rod and so forth, to make it durable. But that bike with mods just became incredible in that 250F class for motocross. And then for me, on the trail side of things, the bikes that I'm familiar with would be the 2017 to 2019 carbureted 300XC. Those are one of our favorite bikes. And just with a little bit of mods, swapping out the carburetor to a Kian carb or Electron, either one, just a little bit of mods, the bike was incredible.
I completely forgot about the carbureted KTM 2-strokes, and that I totally agree with that one. The Yamaha, I would actually go. It's funny because I was thinking one of my favorite ones would be YZ250 2-stroke.
Oh yeah,
and again, I have to list off my sponsors here. This show is brought to you by Yamaha. So, but it's exactly the same as the KTM 300. 2-stroke as well, because it's just one of these bikes that's simple, pretty damn bulletproof, tons of modifications available for it, and they kind of stayed the same. Not the Yamaha stayed the same forever, so there's so much stuff available for it, and they're great stock, they're great modified. You can modify them into quite a bit different things. So yeah, that's in my world, I would say YZ250 2-stroke
They're great. They're great bikes. So we just built one for MXA, and Tom Morgan did the engine, and he's been building that spec since like 03, 04 for that engine.
Right.
And he proved it. He did bounce the crank and got a little better, but that crank, as far as without a counterbalancer motor, it's about as good as you're going to get. Still, I kind of didn't bring that one up because I have that bike here and I don't ride it that much, mainly because I'm not man enough to ride it at the track like I should be able to. And I used to ride 252 strokes a lot through the 90s and early 2000s. And I swore I would never stop riding 252 strokes. But once I did, it was hard to get back on them.
What about big bore 250Fs? Those are always a favorite of yours.
Yes, I do like big bore 250Fs. Unfortunately, there's not as many avenues for those anymore, but the company Cylinder Works isn't making those like they were, since there's not as many key people there anymore that pushing dirt bike stuff. And so there's not going to be a lot of newer ones. And so those were nice because they were bolt-in. And especially in the fuel injected bikes, there was very little you had to do. You could get away with even the stock ECU in many cases.
Yeah, and I remember that was the biggest problem, like I was talking about earlier, when we modified those 4 Honda 250Fs. We spent so much time jetting those bikes, and then all of a sudden, it was really, they didn't rev. The carbureted ones had a hard time revving when you built them up, and then fuel injection came out, and you just get this 2 millimeter bigger bore, and they got really good power. The power increase was kind of crazy. And what a change. So like that's another bike that, and I think people look at this when they're looking at used bikes. It's like, hey, I'm going to buy a used bike. I'm going to get a good deal on it. And then maybe there's some stuff I can do and it makes it, fixes stuff up. I don't think we need to worry about the sound too much there, Matt. I know there's a little bit of a delay, but I think it has a little bit more to do with some other stuff on the side. But Matt's over here pushing buttons like crazy. Yeah. Your producer's doing the same thing?
Yeah. And while you're mentioning on that YZ250, that is one of the best used bikes for people to go after. I get a lot of people email me on what bike they should buy. And I had a guy the other day write me about a WR250, like an 03 or 04, or a YZ250, like 05 or 06. And for me, when he's describing this, I'm like, it's a no-brainer to get that two-stroke, because when you go for a 20-year-old four-stroke versus a 20-year-old two-stroke, it's a whole lot easier to work with it and have fun. And if it does break down, which eventually they all will, it won't be so drastic on you.
Yeah, it's not necessarily break down. They kind of like they wear out. I mean, yeah, they wear out, then they break down. It's generally just don't break down. You wear something out, like you don't get your suspension service and the seals go. You run the crank a little bit long, sucked a little bit of dirt out, it's no big deal. Then you're looking at rod and piston and maybe cylinder replating. So, and I always see, every time I see one of these bike builds you do, the junk that you bring in, and I go, I wish I had all of his connections. I do the same thing. Because some of those bikes, and I remember, you built a YZ250 for us, and it was a basket case bike, and you got it back, and it ended up costing almost as much as a new one, but it had every modification done to it. So net, yeah, you paid a new bike price, but you had a completely set up, modified new bike.
Correct. And that gap's getting a little better. That gap's getting a little better now with how expensive new bikes are. So it is getting a little bit better, and it makes sense to do that with a lot of two strokes. Maybe not as much sense with a four stroke.
Right. So next one I have on my list was the best aftermarket part ever.
I would have to right now. Comes to my mind is ECUs, just because of the newer generation.
Really.
And with an ECU, whether you're mapping a stock one, because that's progressing a lot now. Jamie at Twist, that I work with him a lot, between Vortex and all the different brands of ECUs, and then the engine builders that are building them. I feel like when I put an ECU on either a motocross bike or a trail four-stroke, and you go out and ride, it becomes really apparent. And then I've been spending some time with Jamie yesterday. We were talking about he mapped all of Imig's 250 two-strokes that he rode at Loretta's. And they tested for a bunch and came up with some good settings. And he's thinking on those two-stroke enduro bikes that we're going to be the XCs and XCWs, he's going to be able to come up with some really good maps for those bikes as well. So
I want to work with somebody. I talked to from Get. I saw him up at Washougal. I told him I wanted, because I did some stuff with early on development on that with the electronic power valve. There's so much to do with that. The electronic power valve is what makes the TBI so much better than the TPI. It's not really the position of the injectors. It has something to do with it. But that electronic power valve, it was crazy because they had all these different things and like, hey, try this. And it's funny because they just did a power valve change and it made it basically they opened it wide open the whole time and it made it run like an old 500 two-stroke. Right. It was going ding, 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 lower compression, all the stuff. But yeah, I think I want to play with those, but I'm going to completely 100% disagree with you because I hate I hate the whole you have to get an ECU thing when when I'm talking to the guy with the ECU and he can't even tell me like where in the throttle he's having a problem with it. He just wants more power. I want more power. And it's like, and you probably know this from hearing me jabber on this show. If you want more power, you just take the throttle, the one that's on your bike that's complete stock, and you just turn it farther than where it is, and you get more power. I'm a cheapskate. I like doing things for free. Turn the throttle farther, get more power. It's free. You don't have to do an ECU to that. Right. So I'm torn because, like, in reality, like new tires should be your best modification ever. Because think what's connecting to the ground: tires, traction. Get some tires. And my second thing was recluse clutch. And I know you see it all the time. It's like, okay, you might as well just wear a dress if you're going to put a recluse clutch on your bike. I get it. But that recluse clutch is way better at doing the clutch than, I would say 95% of the riders out there. And especially for trail riding, it allows you to ride more difficult stuff because you quit thinking about stalling the bike, and it teaches you to trust the torque of the motorcycle and gives you, at that point, it gives you better traction where most guys they think they're going to stall and they're on and off with their clutch and then they're heating their bike up and all this other stuff. And even on the Moto track, and I remember doing early fuel injection 450 motocross bikes, I started running recluse clutches in my bikes because I could do a third gear start like nobody's business. I would just hold the throttle wide open and hold the clutch in and just drop it. And the recluse would do all the work. And when everybody made their shift, I was 3 to 4 bike lengths ahead of everybody. And I never told anybody like how come my starts got so much better. And then I learned all the real reasons it got better, balance and some other stuff. So I would go tires, and maybe as far as a product goes, a real product, I would almost venture to say recluse clutch.
That's cool.
So you want to rebuttal to that one? No,
I think it's great. I need to spend more time on them. I rode it on that best bike ever, the 570, and it was
no, don't give away any hints, Jay. So it's not for everybody, and I don't think it is, but I do think that until you've really tried it and given it a shot, it's a good thing. But way better than
we're sitting on my. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can't. We're sitting on a Radius CX box right now. My computer is. So we got one going in a WR450 here soon. We're fuel injected one. It's like
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have a Yamaha WR450?
It's Rados, my buddies, and so we're going to build that engine with a Radius CX.
Yeah, those are you'll be happy. It's good, and I like to set them so they drag a little bit because then the bike doesn't free. All the bad things that happen with them doesn't happen. So speaking of that, and since we said tires, one of the things that I have on the list, what is the best tire ever?
Oh,
Jay's brought to you by Dunlop.
Right. And so I get lots of people asking questions about tires when they email us. And the first thing I say is I work for Dunlop. So I don't have a lot of opinions on other brands because that's mainly all I ride. I really don't spend time riding anything else. Even when the bikes are stock, we ride them just for a little bit at the track or whatever. And that's it. So there's two main tires that I like, and that's the MX-12 and now the MX-14. It's a sand tire. And so I run that at Glen Helen a lot, Kauai. And even in the winter in the desert, like Hesperia, that kind of desert, we run MX-12 a lot because it just hooks up so good, and it's fun in those sand hill climbs, and it just works amazing. And the durability is pretty dang good for that kind of tire. And then the next tire would be a gummy tire for trail riding. Then I would go with it. And we just tried a brand new trials tire, TL01 from Dunlop, which has taken the place of that D803 GP. And it's really,
really?
good.
Okay. Yeah.
And it has a much stronger sidewall. So the tire is, first of all, it was really hard to install when I was putting it on. I'm like, man, this thing's way stronger than the old style trials tire. So way more sidewall strength there. And so people would complain that it could be wallowy at high speeds and so forth. I think this is going to be a lot better for that.
Is this tire, is it still a competition trials tire?
Yes. So full competition. This is taking the place of D803.
The D803, because that's funny that they've gotten stiffer. I didn't know this and that they have a new tire, but I mean, I was one of the first adapters of trials tires. And actually, I wasn't one of the first. Some old dudes that I rode with up in Idaho and in California were running the Michelin tire, which was really expensive and hard to get. Yeah. They were running the Pirelli MT43, I believe it was, which is kind of harder. It was the only one that would keep the knobs on it for highway speeds. Yeah. And then they were running the Dunlop 801, which was the predecessor to the 803, but it was easier to get and less expensive than the Michelin, and it was really sticky. And I think I honestly felt that the 803 kind of took a step back from the 801. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But yeah, I'm not a big fan on the soft terrain tires. It's funny. Here's where we're completely different. So I'm a Kenda guy. I've been Kenda for quite a few years now. They help me out with my off-road schools, and so this is what I run most of the time on my personal bikes. And my tires are the Kenda Parker DTs, which are actually DOT legal knobbies. And probably the only place I don't run those is on a motocross track. The motocross, I would say there's definitely a lot better tires than Kenda's. And then on the other side of the spectrum is I've never really been a Dunlop guy. And not that I don't think that their tires are, I think their tires are great, actually, for everybody but me. I think I turn at what I'll call a non-Dunlop angle. I need to make the Dunlops really work. I need to lean over a little bit more than I want to, which means I need to go faster than I want to, or I can't lean as much as I want to. And that actually equated into what I would call a Bridgestone lean angle. Because I remember when we were doing all the stock bike testing, I always preferred just the grip of Bridgestone tires when we were kind of doing different stuff. But all of a sudden they kind of stepped a little bit back from the racing and stuff. But I'm a Kenda Parker DT guy, with one exception, is that if I'm going to go trail riding, I'll run a tire they have called the Equilibrium, which is we'll call it a mix between a trials tire and a trail riding tire. So it's a trials tire with wider spacing, super soft sidewall. And then there's the traction that you get from that large footprint. And it's so trials tire trail riding guys, you're still alive. We have something for you. But the full, like when we go to the full soft stuff, yeah, when the traction is great, I like that, but I don't like the way that they work on the brakes. And it's different than everybody else. Everybody wants to talk about traction when they're accelerating and stuff. I'm really picky about traction on the brakes. And so the really open block soft terrain tires tend to, I don't know, not do what I expect them to do. They just don't they don't center up and they don't track. They tend to want to push side to side a little bit more than what I would like. No. You there?
Yeah.
You're digesting it?
Yeah, I think you need to do as far as the regular Dunlops, the new MX34, which I don't think you've got to run yet, that should help on some of that, what you're talking about. So, but that's going to be more of a moto tire and not crossover to as much as the trail stuff you're riding.
What's on the Yamaha WR 250 and 450? That's MX33, correct?
Or AT81, but it's probably 33.
No, it's not. So I know it's not AT81 because that's a tire. I mean, I understand where it's at. It's a long life. It's a hard terrain, long life tire, and I just never got along with it. But basically, because the sidewall was so stiff, and it just kind of transmitted that. But even like the Yamaha WR has that, it works on that bike for some reason. I think that bike's just a little bit heavier, and that little extra weight makes that Dunlop tire, the MX-33, work good on it. So and the best thing about tires is if you don't like them, change them. there's 100 different flavors out there, and you'll find one. And some of the stuff that's coming out of, whether it's Rocky Mountain with their Tusk tires, and some of the different ones like Shinko's and Golden tires, and there's companies that are coming up with some pretty good stuff. The sticky thing was like a revolution a few years ago. I don't run them all that much because I ride a lot, and
especially and where you're going out quickly. The gummy tires for me, the sticky tires for a trail guy, whether is for those guys taking that big trip. They're going to go to Colorado, Idaho. They're going on a big trip. They're traveling a long way. They're going to Moab, whatever it is. And to spend the extra $120 to get the good tire for that 3 to 4 days, 5 days they're going to ride, it's well worth it, in my opinion, because they're spending thousands of dollars for their stay, their travel,
right,
to get there. So on something like that, I think that's where that tire is kind of a no-brainer. Hey, you're spending all this money.
I'd have to take like 5 or 6 tires with me because I ride a lot when I go on that trip. So I like to put one tire on my bike that's going to last the whole time. There's my Kenda Parker DT plug, right?
Yeah. So most guys don't do what you're doing, and they're going to go out and do 40 to 50 miles a day for 3 or 4 days. And that's about it. And then ride some, gnarlier stuff. And if it saves them from falling over in 1 or 2 spots, it's well worth it. And that's the way I kind of look at it. Those tires, that's what it'll do. It'll save me from falling over a couple times.
Yes, I agree. I mean, it's like it is they call them, some of the brands call them cheaters.
Yeah,
because they're so sticky, they grip on things, especially on the slick rock and stuff like that. And then the one thing you will find if you start realizing that some of those tires are way more expensive than others, it's the compound and the rubber. And I found that the more you're paying for the tire, the better it works in wet conditions.
Right.
I don't know what the equation is. I think it's something that's just sticking in the rubber that's more expensive. But okay. So the next question. So we're talking about just regular guys, and you probably have this a lot more than I do. Top 3 aftermarket parts that regular guys should buy, and why. So like, guy's got his bike and he says, what 3 things should I do to it? Maybe not even aftermarket parts. Like, what 3 things should I do to this?
Okay. So we'll look at like this Yamaha right here, for instance. I would say number one in these current bikes, and I'm referring, I guess it would be trail or moto, would be that you're happy with the suspension first. That should be number one, is that you're happy with it. Doesn't mean you have to get it done. Whether you go tune on the stock stuff, maybe you need a spring for one, but you should be happy with the stock suspension to where you feel like that's not holding you back. You're hammering and you feel good with the stocks, with whatever suspension you've come up with. That should be number one.
Right. And there's almost a formula for correct springs. If you can't get the right kind of sag, you don't have the free sag. And we've talked about this many times on the show. Jay does like things where he shows you how to set the sag. If your spring rates are off, you're not going to be happy unless you don't know. And there's always people that just don't know, but this is why we're talking about this, getting that suspension set up. And I'm totally against the guy that just takes his suspension off his bike before he's really even ridden it and sends it off to something. I would say if you're just going to have springs put on it, that's okay. If you can't do that, have the springs done, but put some time on the stock stuff and at least play with it so that you can have that oil do a little bit of the break in, and and then you're cleaning out your suspension, just like changing oil in your motor. You want to break it in, clean it out with new oil. And then if you actually play with the clickers, you will start learning the direction you might want to go, and you can at least communicate with your suspension tuner about, hey, this is where I want to go to get comfortable. Because I still I'll go one thing. I still haven't found the suspension tune that you can say, here's my height and weight and my riding ability, and they can just magically pull shims out and stick it in there.
Right. And that's to me, that's the key is what you just said, is that you should ride it first stock, get the sag as close as you can. I mean, some of these bikes we ride, we're all bigger. And if it's a 250F, sometimes to get our 105 millimeters of sag, we got 15 millimeters of free sag. So we know we're off on the spring, but we'll go ride it. And then I like to tell my suspension guy the things I like about it stock and the things I don't. So he's got 2 or 3 things on each side of that. And then from there, because I don't want to make it worse. And sometimes that can happen.
Right.
And people don't realize that if they don't ride it first.
Yeah, there's a lot of this, like I said, that just don't know. And sometimes I've seen people that send it off and it's like, well, where'd you have your sag set at? Because they said, oh, it was horrible. And I'm like, where'd you have your sag set off? And like, oh, okay. So suspension is one. Next thing.
So happy with the suspension. And then I guess after that, to me, on these bikes, a modification would be the ECU. And I know you hate that you got to do that, but it would be an ECU because that makes it run clean. And then,
by the way, Yamaha show brought to you by Yamaha. Your stock ECU is on the 4-strokes is amazingly tunable.
Yes,
via the Power Tuner app, which is free. Actually, you don't even have to have a Yamaha. You can get the Power Tuner app. You can download it on your phone, and you can pretend like you're tuning your ECU, even if you don't have a Yamaha. And you get really good at it. So when you do finally get up to the Yamaha, a couple other companies: Moto, Scott Sports, Climb, DDC. You a DDC guy? No, you got what's your sprockets?
Pro X.
Oh, they make good sprockets. I was surprised. Yeah, they make tons of stuff. Back to my sponsors. Trail Tech, Fasst Company, flex handlebars. Not into that either.
Spoke wrench is incredible. I've had mine over 20 years.
Yep, that's a good thing. Seat
that could be one of my best tools.
Is that may be a thing that you haven't seen yet. It's on the list of bulletproof designs and of course double take mirrors. I use that to get this nice clean shave. Double take mirrors. They're also on my dual sport and adventure bikes. So okay, so your ECU is number 2.
Yeah, and after that. And I think it would have to be controls so that you're happy with bars and grips. And so that would bars, grips, levers, that whole control thing. I don't like the stock Yamaha setup typically. And so that's one that kind of bothers me, but everything else and the stock KTM bars are too low. I feel like on most bikes. And so the Hondas, Kawasaki's, Suzuki's, I'm pretty happy with most of those bikes stock, but the Yamaha and Kawasaki and KTM bikes, I tend to be not so happy with that feel. And run the same barb. So I like to switch the barb in.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to totally agree with you on the suspension thing straight away. I mean, that's probably easy to do. Number 1 for me. Number 2 it's probably going to be I want to just say, I'm just going to group it into ergonomics. So exactly what we talked about: handlebars, levers. I'm going to go as far as like foot pegs, grips, just all the things that wherever you contact the motorcycle, seats, just different things like that. Like that's the number 2 thing, is like to make sure that the way where you touch the bike and everything kind of works out. Cause that's where we're all a little bit different. I have little tiny fingers and small hands, so I can't go with larger diameter grips, and I'm picky about this. I run flex handlebars on all my bikes because my wrists are bad. And so there's these things like that. And then I'm trying to think the third thing, and I want to go with just protection. And it's funny because I see guys go way overboard with protection, and some people just don't even acknowledge it. And so we're talking about like whether it's skid plates or just radiator guards, or even when you're motoing, there's some things, whether you're protecting, just the sides of your radiators as opposed to the front of them in case they get knocked or hit. I've seen, and it's funny because when we look at a true factory bike, a works bike, look at the extra effort they go to protect the radiator hoses, to protect the different parts of the bike that could be, hit, that stuff that could cause a DNF. And that's where I think a lot of guys they go straight to exhaust system, which I get. That's more like exhaust systems right now, and graphics are kind of in the same category for me. And I like them. I like both of those things, but Like there's other things that come in line a little bit quicker, I believe.
And well, there's some bikes there's some bikes that I feel like can benefit a lot more from exhaust, like the stock mufflers on, say, like a KX450 or any of the Yamahas can be pretty obnoxious. And so getting the FMF on there just makes it calm down that sound and gives a better feel. And it's also a little bit less, it has a little more back pressure, so it is a little bit less likely to stall and just has a way better feel to it with a slip-on on some bikes that are out there currently.
Yeah, I like the slip-ons that you can tune the end tip diameter. Like I know the FMFs, because I'm really familiar with those. You can drop like slightly different end tip diameters, and it's like tuning an ECU. So I'm cutting the pipe right into your ECU comment, right? So and then especially when you're talking about the EPA, the quiet bikes, the compliant bikes, the KTM EXCs and stuff like this, or even some of the off-road bikes that come with way too loud of an exhaust, just like the KTMs, some of the EXCs that come with very restrictive exhaust. It's so easy just to put the slip on that's that happy medium. And so there, I think an exhaust is a really good choice there. So, okay. Dealer or online? Oh,
well, I do both. And I see the benefit, but as most of us have found out, there's no one that hasn't found out that it's just a given that if you need something, it's typically not at the shop, especially OEM parts. You look up, you need this one little washer or whatever it is. They're not going to have it. And so the one thing I'll say is that most local dealers, it's 2 to 3 days, depending upon where you're at, to get the parts there, where a shop like Rocky Mountain, which if you click our link, you can go to anytime. You can go through our website.
You can click my link too.
Yeah.
You can click either our links.
Either one.
This is what it allows us to be here.
Every other time you shop, you should click on Jimmy's, and then and then click on mine. So the benefit there is you can see real live inventory that it's in stock, and you see how quickly you're going to get it, and you can get it. We do all those. I feel like a lot of the local shops have hurt themselves by not having good inventory that say the other ones have. So I think that's the biggest thing that hurts them with inventory on especially OEM parts, because they sell those OEM bikes. They sell Hondas there. They should have a good selection of Honda OEM parts. And a lot of it is just, I think a lot of it's just being lazy. They don't pay attention and order the parts. They get ordered all the time. They're not stocking those parts, and they should.
Yeah, it's remember when we were younger, there was always the shop you went to had the good parts guy that you could ask questions to, because you didn't have platforms like we have now where we can answer. You can go online now and you can get a lot of bad advice really quick, but you can find places where you can get good advice. And so you don't necessarily need that parts guy. Maybe the parts guy isn't such a valuable guy anymore. He's not getting paid what he should be. So, who's going to decide what we need to stock for whether it's a Honda 450 or, a KTM 125, like what stuff do you need to, it takes a pretty experienced guy to know what kind of stuff that, you would have to do this math in your head, where now the online retailers, they see it, they see how many parts are coming through the things. And so I feel like, you need the brick and mortar shop there, because where are you going to buy your bike from?
Right.
You need to have a shop, but if that shop wants to keep you coming back, and maybe that's why I see guys that literally they've kind of forgot that they can't. The reason you're not going to get a deal on that bike is that may be the only time the dealer's ever going to see you.
Right.
And with the internet driving the price of everything down to zero, so we all know, this shop is $100 more than that shop or whatever. But do you want to have a shop there next year to be able to buy your next bike from? And it's because, like I said, maybe the only time you see it.
That's a really good point. And so if that happens in your areas, you're going to have less. You're going to have to drive further to the shops. And I come across a lot of people. We take it for granted in California and even out where you're at that there's plenty of shops close. There's guys that live in lots of parts of this country that a Husqvarna shop or a Kawasaki shop or whatever is an hour or 2 hours.
Beta shop.
Yeah, well, for sure. I'm talking about the main brands that we're used to. Just those mainstays that we think are easy to find, like a Honda shop, some people have to go 2 hours away for a good shop to even be able to get a bike from or parts. So that's one of the downsides there.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it's just part of this evolving, culture, media, the way that media's changed, the way that social's changed, but keeping, and I used to get mad when I would hear of someone going to they go to Chaparral, trying all the boots, figure out what size they were, and then go online to go to someplace else
and buy it for $10 less.
And then buy there. And you're like, oh man, I don't know. To me, it's just that's maybe a little bit of bad karma in there. Not really sure.
Well, while you're talking about these parts guys, I'll give a shout out to two. Langston's is a local shop for me, and there's a guy named Iden in there. It's like IDAN, and he's a cool guy. He's really knowledgeable and really good. And there's a few people in there that are the same way. He's just the one that helps me the most, and he's really good. And then down in North County, San Diego, and Escondido is Buzz is at ECC, and he's been there for 20 plus years or whatever, and he's really sharp. And if I just ask him a prefix in a Honda partner, he knows what bike it is, obviously, and he's really good, like you were saying, those guys that just really know. If I'm trying to figure something out Honda-wise or look up an out-of-stock part that's not available anymore, like I'm working these old Hondas, he's been real helpful at helping me, look at other dealerships throughout the country that might have it in stock.
Yeah, nothing like I said, nothing like that good parts guy that knows. And then we're on our chat. I see it kind of scrolling up there. There's lots of people that are saying, "Hey, yeah, Bob Riker and Kenny Road at R&R Racing," and they're just talking about different, guys and same thing. It's if you have a good local shop, I mean, I would go ahead and use them, even if it cost me a couple bucks more and it maybe took a day or two. If I had that day or two, I would use that if the of course the shop guy was good. I kind of experienced this in Vegas when I first moved out here to Prump. I went and it was kind of like some of the shops were going through some rough times and everything. And I went in and I was on my way to Idaho and I wanted to have a spare clutch lever. And literally, it was for a KTM 500, and the guy's like, "Year, make, and model," and I'm like, "It's KTM 500." They're all the same. I mean, and he's like, "No, I need to have the year, make, and model," and it just went to the point where, and all they had in stock was the hard parts one that was like, it was like $700 instead of like 30, right? I mean, I know the Brembo and the Magura stuff's a little bit pricey, but this thing was like ridiculous, and I'm just like, do I really want to try to find another shop on the way there? And ended up, getting a great thing. Yeah, Sportsman Cycle in Vegas is another great little shop. They're a beta dealer too, so I'm close to betas. So lots of and then if you're familiar with the motorcycle industry, everybody wants a deal.
Yes,
and everybody wants the cheapest. It's not like other industries where you just go and pay your the price is the price. Here's my credit card. It's like, can I get 20% off?
Right.
So, okay. Best grips, Jay.
Best grips, ODI lock-on grips, and that it took me a long time to get off of the glue-on wagon, but I feel like with the new ones, they're not as thick. They're able to get that same very similar diameter with some really good compounds and feels really good. So it's just a no-brainer for me. And the new MIG 2.0s that we're running that just came out are amazing. And there's tons of cool colors. And it's kind of a good way to customize your bike as well with a cool look. And the price, they got the price so good on those things that for the hassle of gluing on grips.
It's not worth the hassle to glue things on, and they come on and off so easy.
And then especially the guys that aren't good enough to, they're gluing their throttle grip and messing up the whole throttle assembly and having the throttle stick open, all those types of things. It really is good especially for those kind of people.
Yeah. Hey, I totally agree. The ODI grips are kind of like my go-to now. A lot of times I remember when AME I think they might have started the lock-on grip thing a long time ago. Bob Rutten was out here. He was a Vegas guy, but so I'm there with you on those grips. I like them because they're smaller diameter and just they seem like they last pretty good. And then when they do wear out, it's so easy to take them on and off. But I'm telling you, if you're like a dual sport or adventure guy, you got to check out these Pro Grip foam grips, the ones that all the rally guys run.
Right.
They've now moved on to my adventure bikes. They're a pain in the ass to mount, and you got to be careful with them, because if the grip glue sticks on them, they stick halfway on, you wreck the set. But they look like the lawnmower handle grips. But man, everybody laughs at them. But then you ride with them and they're good. But yeah, ODI grips are.
So the rally guys are running those. What brand are those?
Pro Grip.
Pro Grip. Okay.
A company called Pro Grip. Yeah, it's an Italian company.
And if you're riding for multiple days and long miles every day, you need something better on your hand.
I've never really put them on a trail riding bike, because I don't think they like have the extra grip. But I mean, we ran them on a rally bike. So the first time, and it's funny because every rally guy, Ricky Brabeck, Andrew Short, all these guys when we all got our first real factory rally bike, they were on there, and we're like, take them off, put real grips on. And it didn't take long to we're back on these things. And now, yeah. So
that's cool.
We use Pro Grips installed with alcohol, says Baja Bound Adventures. So yeah, alcohol. I mean, it's funny because I used to actually install rubber grips with WD-40.
Right.
Back in the day, they would slip right on. You just let them sit for 24 hours and they'd vulcanize. So,
nice.
Best chain lube
is oil. So any type of oil. Oil.
Any type of oil.
And so, and anybody that has had especially a KTM with a leaky countershaft seal knows that their chain is no better than at that time. And it's almost just the right amount, like until it starts to leak too much and it's all over. But a leaky countershaft seal is just about the right amount of oil. And so just any type of oil is the best thing to use that I found. I think most chain lubes, or the chain lubes that I've ever dealt with, are too sticky. And I've actually watched, there's a really good guy that has a good YouTube that is more street oriented, Fort9, and he has huge following, and he tested all these chain lubes, all different ones. And very scientific testing. And he came up with the same thing. And I'd already felt for years is that oil. And so we'll use WD-40 or any type of MPPL or any type of like lube after we wash the bikes, for instance, after that. And then if we can, we'll use oil. And I keep it I'll show you something like.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you my point of view on this one as we go.
Something like this.
So it's a gear oil container.
Yeah, and then you can just drip it on, and it works well.
Yeah. So I mean, that's I should really adopt this, because that's definitely a poor person technique. That's a super good pour, because I run all my used motorcycle oil. A lot of it, it's like chainsaw bar oil.
Yes.
And my chainsaw chains last for years, and so, but. So this is interesting. So I actually like I'll use a lot of different stuff, but I've kind of like, if I want to spray stuff on there, I like the Maxima chain wax, and I've had decent luck with it not being in dry conditions.
And I think it's good. The problem I have is if you're not perfect aim, that stuff gets onto other things. And my bikes all look really nice. And if it gets, because
mine don't.
It's asking me how to get it off their swing arm and their hub and everything. It gets on the spokes. Now, I know your bikes aren't maybe necessarily as like,
I spray it. Okay. I spray it underneath the swing arm and down, so it only hits the chain and goes down. If it misses, it goes on the ground. And a lot of my bikes don't have linkages on them, so there's no linkage to hit in there. I'm not spray painting the side of the linkage.
Right.
And I'm only trying to get it sort of between the side plates and cover it. But here's a good tech tip. You can steal this from me at any time. Just give me a little credit. I lube my chain when I'm done with my ride. So when the bike comes back to the truck or bike comes back to the house, that's when I lube my chain with chain lube or oil or whatever, At that point I put it on there and then it sets in there and it coats it. Then I wash the bike. And then the oil's gone in there and the oil keeps the water out. And then maybe after, if I haven't, I will use like a water displacing kind of thing or a penetrant oil or something. But it's all kind of a thing. But I noticed that if you lube the chain when it's warm, and then it does what it's supposed to do, the lube keeps the water out and stuff when it's not. So, yeah.
The other key is if you wash a bike is to use compressed air and try to blow things off. Like especially we spin the chain, we blow it off and try to get water out of there. It's there.
Yeah, or it could be blowing it in.
We're trying.
I run O-ring chains on most of my stuff.
Yeah, we're going the opposite way.
Yeah,
And we do really good with chains, and I think the biggest thing is not having a sticky one on there that's grabbing sand and dirt and working it in there.
totally agree. Yes, for sure. There's some there. That, I mean, it was in the old days. You wanted, really sticky stuff. I remember the old PJ1 black stuff that you would put it on there, and you would start spinning. It looked like a giant black spider web.
Like your air filter oil, air filter oil. You want that sticky thing,
right? Oh, I don't have air filter oil as a topic, but I'll put that down.
Put that one down. If we have enough time. We got to end before 10 p.m.
Right, we got a few more minutes, and we'll take a quick little ad break so you can get up and take a break, finish your sandwich. I know we cut into dinner there. Best while we're on the chain, what's the best chain?
Now that I thought you might ask that one, but there's so many good ones, honestly. But I will say this is that on modern four strokes, so we'll talk trail bikes. They all come with a cheap chain with no O-ring. So an X-ring chain is like a diet O-ring chain, is an X-ring. And it just, and so I think for most guys that are motocross is at least an X-ring chain, because these four strokes, especially a 450, 350, 450, you're going to destroy chain and sprockets so quickly without a O-ring or an X-ring chain. They just eat them up, especially with a full aluminum sprocket. There's some brands out there that advertise very heavy, have tons of championships, but they don't hold up well. An aluminum rear sprocket on a 450 isn't going to last long. And so that's when I go back to like the sprocket you were showing, or the Pro X steel sprocket, those types of sprockets, that added quarter pound. I've done some weight comparisons, and it's like, it's half of a burrito,
Yeah.
to
DDC. Half a burrito. That's the name of your new show. Half a burrito Wednesday morning show.
So Jimmy, you should weigh that. You should weigh that sprocket versus the same tooth sprocket on an aluminum, say, sprocket, and just go, hey, what's the difference? I don't think it's very drastic,
No, it's not much. And I mean, it's people go, well, it's rotational mass and all this stuff like that. And even compared to some of the ones that are like the aluminum inner ring with the steel teeth.
Yeah.
This one's still, so this is the DDC. It's very similar to ones like the Dirt Tricks, and there's a couple different companies that are making sprockets. Like Sunstar makes theirs is actually pretty unique. The Sunstar looks like a Swiss cheese kind of thing with wavy, thin little teeth.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I've used them all, and I tell you what, like I've never worn one of these chain wheels out. Never.
And you're using O-ring
I still have
O-ring chains, right?
Yep, O-ring chains. But the thing is, we're also riding in mostly dry conditions and stuff, and we're not riding in like that grit dirt they have in Oklahoma that will just wear anything. But I especially with the power of the 450s, and we have test bikes that we get with stock sprockets on them, and it's not like 8 or 9 rides before they're getting cupped, and you can actually see the teeth like literally warping a little bit and stuff when you're really on them. And
while you're on that subject, one thing I'll say is that the stock KTM bikes as a whole, with the stock chain, the aluminum rear sprocket lasts a long time because it has a better stock chain. That stock chain on a KTM bike is so much better than, say, on a Kawasaki or on a Yamaha or even a Honda. So the stock,
it seems like 3 or 4 years ago they were really, really bad.
Yeah,
and I would say that for sure. I've because we've been testing a lot of Yamahas lately, and I'm kind of surprised that they seem like they're lasting a little bit longer. But for sure the KTMs have a little bit better quality chain, and that does make a difference. If the chain and you need to replace that stuff in sync, you need to change those things together. If you got a worn out chain, you throw a new sprocket on it, and it's gonna wear pretty quickly. So, best graphics.
Decal Works. And I've been with them for years, and they're great to work with. You can kind of design up whatever you want, and the stuff holds up really well and looks cool. And like you said, it's probably, I tell people, and I love decal work, and I think it looks awesome, but obviously it's not something you should be doing if your clutch is worn out, if your tires are worn out, all those types of things. I would hold off on graphics until you get those things fixed, and then get some cool looking graphics.
It should be the last thing.
Yeah, you're dialed in.
It's funny because I can't even comment on this because I don't even know when the last time I put graphics on a bike was. I actually didn't even have black numbers for my YZ125 before I went to Hangtown. So I actually just had some white ones. I just spray painted them black and put them on there. But I forgot I needed numbers. Okay. I haven't really raced for a long time, but when I was back at the magazine, we definitely used Decal Works on a time or two, but, I used to do stuff with a company called Power Sport Graphics, which was a guy back east. I don't think they're doing stuff anymore, but he would make me super bitchin' custom graphics. And it is kind of a nice feeling when you do make your bike look that good. And a lot of people are, on the chat right now, just saying how good the Decal Works stuff is. They've made a lot of custom stuff.
Yeah, and we have a discount link for that. If you click on our link,
okay, you have a link tree. So if you go to at Dirt Bike TV, Dirt Bike TV 1,
or our website,
and then there's
same address on the website. So if they don't want like the Instagram, they can go to the website dirtbiketv1.com and they can click on them there.
Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a couple minute break here with our sponsor. So if you're watching this live, if you're on, you're going to shut down the Instagrams over here. Remember that one that's running over there?
And should we make a new one? Should we do a new one?
If you want to, if people are enjoying this and stuff, we can go ahead and do a second one. I'll jump back on it. Okay. But if you want to just watch it live and comment in the chat and stuff like that, you can go over to at Dirt Bike Test on YouTube and or Facebook. We're live there right now. We'll continue live for the second hour of the show. And I'd like to thank Jay. So here we'll take a couple minute break and we'll see you on the backside.
What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. What is the Taco Touch? It's the best service in the industry. Virtually 24/7 tech support via email or text. And it's like having a dirt bike doctor on call every day of the year, helping you fix your bike or recommend parts or setups for you. If you've ever received an order from us, you know that the Taco Touch extends to our fulfillment, and our orders come with the coolest stickers that you've ever had, buying parts from anybody before, and a handful of root beer barrel candies. All of our Taco Moto Co. branded components come with a no questions asked lifetime warranty, and we even extend out the warranty of other manufacturers, OEM, and aftermarket parts where we can, sometimes for life. We test and tune endlessly and exhaustively and obsessively. We're trying to destroy everything that we can before you get your hands on it to look for weaknesses and to improve it, or to make recommendations to the manufacturer. And if it's something that doesn't meet grade, then we don't offer it on the store. Everything that we carry is something that we have personally used, tested, and ridden, and raced, and knows meets the high Taco Touch demanding standard. Go out and get some adventure.
Welcome back, everybody, to this special edition. It's called the best edition of Tech Talk ever, because we're talking about the best products known to man. Lucky to have Jay Clark from Dirt Bike TV on. I've been working with Jay for a long time. A wealth of knowledge in this. If you ever want little tricks and tidbits of how to do things and advice on how to fix your motorcycle, subscribe to his Instagram account, Dirt Bike TV, and then you can search him on the internets as that as well. So we've covered all the stuff so far: suspension, best aftermarket parts, dealers versus online, best tire, best grips, best graphics, best chain. We've almost agreed on everything. Pretty close.
Not ECUs.
Not ECUs. We don't agree on ECUs.
We don't have to.
I mean, they're good for, but practically everything else. We need to get a hot topic in here. This one usually starts things up. So, Jay, best oil.
Okay. Well, then I had an audio problem right there. So let's start over with that question.
Oh, yeah, the best oil. That was always a hot topic.
Yeah.
And can you hear us?
This is a tough one.
Can't hear us.
Yeah,
I hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
So it's a tough one to answer because I work with and is sponsored, and Recluse has their own high quality oil.
Who's your oil sponsor? Let's disclose.
I don't have. So
you don't have one currently.
I work with Klotz oil, and I use their 2-stroke oil and contact cleaner.
Klotz, yeah, okay.
Klotz, great 2-stroke oil, R50. As far as oil goes, you want to grab one, Donnie, down there? This is open the door with the big D right there.
Yeah, because I don't personally have an oil.
Yeah, this is what
sponsor.
we've been using for over 20 years. and we use it in everything.
Oh, you just lit the fire. you just lit the. We haven't even said what it is, but everybody can guess. If you're listening to this on a podcast or something like that, send us a message with what kind of oil you just think he held up.
That's my favorite oil right there.
Hey. It in all honesty, and that's why maybe you need to watch this show live so you can see what we're talking about, because there's sometimes some important information that goes unspoken. But I also don't really have an oil sponsor. We have people that help us out a lot of time.
Hey, before we get too far, hey, have Matt request us on the Instagram live, and we'll join you. Have you guys join in again?
Okay. I'm actually probably trying to do that. Oh, here you go. I see you're live. Yeah. I'm here.
So we'll have part 2.
Come on.
For those that want to stay on the
send
Instagram
request. There we go.
Send request.
So we're multitasking so we can get on the Instagram.
This oil thing is going to cause a lot of problems, and I have used and Recluse has a really good synthetic oil that's kind of a high end oil that they recommend for their clutches. That's really good. I just think for the cost and with the Rotella, how often you can change oil, which like on this YZ250F, one day at the track with my son on it or anybody faster, 1 hour to an hour and a half, it's oil change time with whatever oil we run if we're at the track. The things don't hold very much oil. They only hold 840 cc's of oil. So
right.
It's you're smoking that thing on a 250F, especially at a track like Glen Helen. So it's nice to be able to you can do oil changes at will and have fresh oil in there all the time.
Yeah, and I have Chris Reel, who's a petroleum engineer. You're familiar with Chris, works here, and he works. He used to own an oil company. He works with a lot of oil companies. You know what he says the best oil is?
What's that?
Oil. Have oil. Have oil in your bike. That's generally the people that are arguing about this when they have a problem. It's because they didn't have oil in their bike. Not the right kind of oil. It was less the oil than was necessary. So let's start with that. I think it's funny because I did some tests where it was oil based and we were trying to feel performance differences in, and I've seen dyno numbers with different oils. I've seen all different kinds of stuff. And in reality, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to feel. I did feel differences in shifting depending on certain oils. There was some stuff like this, but the oil that you held up is very, very good oil, hard to beat. Sometimes I feel better when I put a good motorcycle oil in my motorcycle. I say, okay, this is okay. But I've also put like STP 30 weight in my motorcycle because that's what a guy brought a case over to my house because it was sitting in his shop for 20 years.
Right.
HD 30. Oh, well, that can go in the XR 100. It worked in the XR 100. It's going to go in the XR 400. It worked in there. Maybe it's in the Husaberg. I don't know. It's oil. So we can have the oil debates. I know there are definitely some oils that are better than others. I've seen, like I said, I've seen horsepower, dyno charts and stuff. I've seen oil analysis, and I'm starting to see more people that are actually sending their oil into testing labs and getting the oil analysis done at different intervals. And some of these labs will actually keep track of your oil for you and different things and show where stuff is coming out of. And if you want to get that technical, but I haven't had an oil related failure in all of my riding years other than, well, it was the company that Chris Reel worked for. It was Duralube back in the day. We would override their 2-stroke oil. We would put too much strain on the motors for that particular oil. And then the cases that I had of it went in my KTM 200s and some of my other, YZ250s and stuff that I trail rode forever. Never had a problem with it. But racing at 10/10ths, okay, so we had a little bit of a problem. But yeah, oil's oil.
and there's some argument about synthetics versus, and that's a non-synthetic oil that we're running with the Rotella. Some people, there's different opinions on what's better for the clutch plates, and that's a big problem is clutch plates and wear and what's going to glaze and so forth. And so, and all I can tell you is we have really good results over the last 20 years with that, and we have tested the Recluse oil on both. They have 2 different ones, and they've both been very good. I haven't had any problems with either one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I totally agree. It's, it's all good. So good. They got rid of that controversial one. Air filter oil.
Air filter oil. Hey, Donnie, grab my one. Be careful. Use a rag on it because this one's kind of fun. You're going to like this.
Sticky.
It's sticky on the outside. It's that bottle right there by that trophy. You should bring over my.
So I'll go ahead and go with mine. My favorite air filter oil is made by a company called Rock Oil.
Right.
And it's synthetic water washable air filter oil. They call it Eco Foam right now. And the cool thing about this stuff is it literally washes out with water. You put it in just like normal, and when you're done with it, you wash it out with. It's like the filter is brand new out of the bag with no oil in it. It is not sticky, and this stuff won a shootout we did at Dirt Rider a bunch of years ago. They've changed the name from Swaff to Eco Foam. I prefer it in the pour in, not the spray on, because it just seems like it spreads a little bit easier. It's not as sticky as some people would like it. And like Flynn says, rock oil is hard to get. There's a guy up in Northern California who the importer, and he'll send it to you. There's a few places that are starting to stock it, because I haven't met anybody who started using it who isn't still using it.
Why is it hard to get? They just got poor distribution in the U.S.?
They're poor distribution. Yeah, it's just not like a normal thing. It's like I said, you can get it, but you got to work for it a little bit.
Well, it sounds like I need to try that oil, because I haven't tried that.
And people go, well, what if you wash your bike, and what if you ride through a river? And it's like, but you have to agitate it. So the funny thing is when your filter's all dirty and stuff, take it out and spray water at it for a second and see what comes through. Like Dayglow green water will come through, but the dirt doesn't go through. If you agitate it, you can rinse the oil out. But the one thing is there's a lot of alcohol in it. So it's a little bit like Moto oil in the sense that that if you're going to put your filter in and leave it in for 6 or 8 months, probably not a good oil, because it will break down the foam and it will stick. That's where an oil is, if it's going to be in there for a long time, or you're really concerned with the dirt getting through for some reason. Like if you're going to plug your filter, run a really good petroleum-based oil, because at least it'll plug. It won't figure out a way to suck the dirt through if you're really dirty and plugged. But
and that rock oil, you've been running that a long time, and you've never sucked dirt through it, and you ride in some silty stuff. I know.
Yeah.
So
the only time it's been sucked through is two times. One, when the kid that was doing my filters didn't do it properly.
Okay.
Left dry spots in there,
like camouflage looking. Yeah.
Yeah, it was he just missed a seam, like an edge on one side. And the filter literally like we were riding through silt beds, and it pretty much plugged almost all the way around the rest of the filter, and then it started sucking it through there. It was able to get it through there, but not its fault. And sometimes in really dusty stuff, you will get that really fine layer in the inside where there's you can see a little bit of stuff has gone through, but the filter almost has to plug in order to do that. You should have changed it anyways. But I haven't had any failures that I would attribute to that oil at all.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
I rode my bike into a beaver dam, and the bike was underwater for at least 30 seconds. The airbox was completely filled up and stuff. And I took it out, got it out, and we had to pull the air filter out and wring the air filter out. And of course, you're washing it at that point to get the oil out. But it was still pretty wet. I didn't wring it and really wring it. I just got it got it most of the water out, and I figured, if it sucks a little more water in here, it's just higher compression. There's already plenty of water in the bottom end. But I ran that filter for 2 days because I didn't have access to another filter or anything, and no dirt went through. And this was really dusty up in Idaho and Utah.
That's cool.
So, well, I wish we had a link to the stuff for the rock oil. Matt, if you want, maybe if you have a second to search it and pop it up there in the chat. But give it a try.
And then Matt,
I think you'd be stoked.
Send it to me as well, so I can see, and we can see if we can check it out. Because you'll see from what the oil I show you, you'll see that I don't have any hard ties to this company.
Here's the
oil I use.
I know which one that is.
Right.
That's the stickiest stuff you can get.
Now, I will say this. So now recently, I've been working with Hoodie. He's a cool guy. So this is the oil I use. And Hoodie is a longtime mechanic.
He was Rhino's old mechanic, right?
Rhino's old mechanic for years. And a good guy.
Yes.
He's got a business down in Marietta where everybody has a shop down by KTM. And he has this MX filter service. And he used to be DT01 filter service. Now it's MX filter service. He services anybody's filters. So I went in there. He uses a bit of this oil mixed with some other brands of oil. And he has an agent to dilute it down a little bit. And so far, we've been running that oil on some of the filters that he's prepped for us. He's washed filters. He has a good filter service for guys. So if guys are sick of cleaning filters, they can send him like 10 filters at one time in a box. And he does them for like $5 a piece. And they come back in the bag, ready to go. It's really a cool thing.
Prepped and ready to go.
And they're better than those disposable filters that would come with a really thin oil sometimes. And I wouldn't trust those, So this one, I would trust this ride.
So my experience with the disposable filters are if you're kind of going to the track and you're not really putting a lot of stress on your filter, they're fine. They'll do their job. But if you're really in extreme conditions and stuff like that, and they tend to flow a little bit better. I've seen dyno charts where they make more power because they're flowing more air, and it's just kind of it's just kind of a thing. And then they sell that Rottweiler. Yeah, Rottweiler sells the rock oil.
Oh, cool.
So good for them.
I'm only finding the aerosol.
Yeah,
I'm only finding the aerosol version of it.
Yeah. I prefer the pour on stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely not aerosol fans. We keep a bucket. We have a good video showing how we would do it and have a bucket and completely saturate it and wring it out.
Yep.
And that's important.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's good. In your video, you're using that same bottle, right?
Yeah,
that's one where you can't.
Yeah, where there's no logos on there, and that's for a few different reasons. But some people they don't think we have a lot of value. So I'm like, okay, so if we're going to buy the oil, it's going to come with no logos on there.
I know where you're at.
Okay, so
I used to work at a magazine.
Yeah, so we do buy plenty of stuff, and then the stuff we buy, we don't usually promote it. Other than that other oil I showed, which is available at Walmart and Costco and stuff, and.
Yeah.
Sam's Club and stuff.
But you're not using that in air filters.
And we'd get that. I've had a lot of questions about that. Why don't we just use motor oil in filters? These guys want to use motor oil. And
it's not sticky enough.
It's definitely not sticky. You'll suck right through it. Enough. People don't realize that the oil is really to prevent dirt from getting past there. And you need something that's really going to grab that dirt. And where we really find it for us, what we do is in the wintertime, believe it or not, is in the sand tracks that are really nice and wet, but then we dig down and we get into this powdery, and all these turns are becoming that sand, that fine sand is coming right through. And that's the time that we'll actually end up sucking dirt more so than just a regular Glen Helen, days.
Yeah. Okay. Now off the controversy, best aftermarket plastic.
Plastic. It's all good and bad. And MX Plastics is Decal Works company, and they have kind of a variety of Polysport, UFO, and different things. All the companies have pros and cons. I don't know that I found one that's just perfect on everything. And knowing some stuff I know in Italy, that's where a lot of the stuff's made. For three of the main brands there, is they do share some molds. Some of the brands,
right?
Will actually share molds and stuff. So, because the molds, you could imagine the people that are used to mold is very expensive to make for a big thing like a front fender. It's very expensive, and so if they can split some of that, and you make the rear fender, we'll make the front fender, and so forth. So, I honestly don't know if there's really a best. I guess I could say that the stock plastic is usually obviously really good and fits the best.
Yeah.
And then
back to this.
It's really interesting what KTM did this year is they locked in, they have the stock plastic, and they locked in like 3 colors. So if you get a KTM, there's black, white, and gray, maybe, I think it is, available for your bike. And they were really sticking to that. No one was going to, and then enough companies have challenged that and have now making their own plastic. But we ran some of the stock plastic.
That KTM thing was That KTM thing was interesting. That caused some ruffles.
Right.
They literally they patented their plastic and their shapes and stuff like this. And And the thing is they have so much power because they buy so much OEM from these companies,
right?
And now they're preventing the company. They want to sell it. They want to sell plastic for a few years, kind of like they've done the same thing with some of the hard parts like pipes and things like that. FMF makes the pipes, and FMF can't sell you a KTM certain thing, and it's just a brand. Again, it's just like the dealers. Everybody's trying to figure out this business model, and see how it goes. Let's see. And Countershocks wants to know if you bolted on the Countershocks I gave you, Jay.
I haven't got those.
Are those inertial dampers that go up on the forks?
He got me a new one that you can do without pulling the fork leg off, and it's been sitting on my counter here for 6 months.
I want to try that. I talked to him at the show in Vegas, and I'm like,
we were at the same show, and that was
I used to run something similar to that on my rear swing arm back in the Supermoto days.
I can imagine.
It was amazing. So I understand the concept and the physics on that. That'd be something we don't want to get in there. Best piston for non-OEM rebuild parts.
Well, I work for 3 piston companies: Pro-X, Wiseco, and JE. They're all one, family of brands, and they kind of have pistons for all different type of use. So stock pistons in most bikes are really good nowadays, right? But if you're going to do any modifications, even to a 2-stroke, like if it's serious modifications like that YZ250 we were talking about earlier, most builders all want to have a forged piston of some sort in there. We have the Wiseco forged piston in there. It's a lot stronger, more durable, less likely to crack under a serious use. So that's where an application like that's really good. Where for the average person just changing a piston, a cast piston is just fine, like the Pro-X is. And then in the 4-stroke side of things, like for racing applications, there's not a single team that you see racing motocross that is running a stock piston. They're all running a aftermarket race piston built by a company like Wiseco or JE, or there's some other companies out there. They're all running a version of a forged race piston of some sort that's changing the compression of the engine, but also the squish. They're setting it up exactly how they want, and all the valve pockets are right where they want. They're specifying exactly where each of those is to help them build that motor just perfectly. So that is a little history on pistons and the race bikes right now.
Yeah. So you're happy with any of I've run Pro-X and a bunch of rebuilds I've done lately and had really good luck with it. Unfortunately, like I usually rebuild them for people. Yeah. And it's like, hey, we're going to kind of monitor this, bring it back with 80 hours, and they go ride it, and then they sell their damn bike. Right. It's like, gosh, you wrecked my, but I have 2 or 3 bikes right now that have piston durability tests going on in them. And I, unfortunately, on some KTM 500 stuff, I had a little bit of bad luck. And then there was a shortage of pistons, so I couldn't. Matt, you remember when we had some bad luck?
Who caused the bad luck?
My bad luck?
Yeah. Well, my piston bad luck in my KTM 500.
Oh, I thought that was a valve bad luck.
Well, yeah, but the valve, it actually falls out and goes into the piston. Durability test ended, no fault of the piston. So, anyways, lately, I haven't had any, I remember there was times when there were certain brands that had got bad reputations back when I was racing motocross in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think it was just some quality control things. But boy, I tell you what, if you it's just like anything you see on the internet. If somebody has if one KTM frame, the steering stem tears off, right? Because a guy shot his bike off the side of a track and it hit on another guy's bike and it broke. Right. And that picture gets in the internet. You'd think every single KTM frame is made out of clay.
Right.
And this is the same thing when you see.
And the piston takes the brunt of whatever happens. Just like you said, there was a valve problem. The valve problem went into the piston. And so anything that goes wrong in an engine, the piston is usually the one that's going to show it, especially in a 2-stroke. So if you have, jetting or detonation problems, the piston's going to take it. If you have an improper circlip installation, the piston's going to be the blame, so to speak. So the piston's going to be the blame for that with regardless of what piston they're running. So that's something you deal with, unfortunately. In this day and age, people are quick to blame, other people and other things besides themselves, right?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I always go back to when somebody's saying, "Hey, Jimmy, my bike does this," and I'm like, "What was the last thing you touched?" What was the last thing you worked on? And we'll just follow it right back from there, and we're probably going to end up at the same place. So kind of important to acknowledge that. But yeah, so you're never, so you're rebuilding all these kind of things. Have you ever had anything come back with, okay, the piston was the problem?
No, not in years. Nothing. We haven't had any failures or anything. Any of the problems we've had is we, got mixed up and brought the wrong gas for the 2-stroke, and things like that have happened, but that's about it.
Yeah. And no, do you have a particular circlip that you like?
The ones that usually always run the ones that come with the piston.
Comes with it. Yeah.
The case clips are difficult to install.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's some that are really difficult to install, and other ones that are. I mean, I almost think they should send on some, especially some of the 2-stroke ones. They should send you like fork circlips,
right?
Because one's going to fly away, which actually isn't good either. Because I've seen them fly away into the bottom end.
Yeah.
And then, then it's like, okay, we got to turn this bike upside down and shake it, or run it, fish a magnet around in there.
Yeah.
Or if it flies around, you don't know where it went, or I've seen guys get a little aggressive with them and just bend them too much.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, that's going to come out. You can't put that back together.
No, I highly recommend if you're working on your kids, especially 125 and undersized pistons, those small circlips. I would recommend when you order a piston to get some extra clips and have them around just for those reasons, because if you bend it a little much, you're not gonna want to not put it back together. You're gonna want to finish it so you guys can go ride the next day. So that's a good point.
Get an extra set of piston clips.
Yeah.
We're getting closer to some of the heater questions here. So this show, if you're just kind of tuning in, if you're over here on the Instagrams, we're talking about the best of everything, and we're going to get to the best bike of all time. That's our last question. But one of the questions I had written here was, how does a regular Joe go about getting his dirt bike rebuilt?
Rebuilt by who? Like to build it like for a project, or just rebuild it?
Well, I mean, just like, because you're constantly getting questions, and I'm getting questions all the time, and I'm just kind of curious. Like, should they do it themselves? And if it's above their skill level, what's the next? Where do you turn? Because I definitely see a lot of bad advice. But our AZ Rida says, Jay, thanks for all your help. I watched your videos and rebuilt my 07 CR 450R, and it starts first kick. So
that's cool. That's a good bike. That's a good bike too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I see people just take these piles. Well, they're usually leaned up against the shop fence, outside there, and they take their bike into the shop, and then they charge you $200 to diagnose it, and then it's going to be $6,000 to fix.
Right, and that's so. Here's the reality of those older bike, rebuilds or whatever, is if you can't afford to do it right, then you probably shouldn't do it. And that would mean if you have an uncle or a brother or somebody, a dad or somebody that can help you with it, and maybe a pro mechanic. A lot of times in your local area, there can be a mechanic who's working with a local pro rider, and he wants some work to do on weeknights or whatever. That would be a good guy to enlist, and you can pay him a little bit to go work on it with you. That would be something you could do. And that's the only way it's going to financially make sense to rebuild something like some of these older bikes, is to have somebody that can maybe hold your hand a bit for the first bit, get you going through the heavy lifting. Maybe they help you get the engine done. Obviously someone to help you with your suspension. And then the rest isn't that difficult, especially on a 2-stroke. You're just putting things back together, and you can find plenty of YouTube videos showing you how to, grease the linkage, change bearings, steering stem, those types of things. And Donnie's just reminded me, whenever he just took his bike all the way down to the frame, pulled the engine out, got the frame painted on a brand new bike. And you just take pictures and videos nowadays with your phone through the entire process. So that's on a newer bike.
So you remember how it goes back together, or what?
Yeah, it's like you take all the guesswork out of it.
We do it in our sleep. That's the problem. It's just something you've been doing forever. But yeah, I like your idea about going to try to find a mechanic that works with a pro rider or something. But I think when it comes down to it, it's how much does if you're going to start having to pay for labor, normal shop labor, whatever deal you have on this bike or however broken it is, I think it's going to kind of end up being like, bad deal. You're not going to end up making any, coming out ahead of the game,
not at all,
by taking it to a shop and paying full rates. But I think, definitely a lot of people do it. And it's almost like I see where car dealers are, with all the electronics and stuff, they force you to come back to the dealership. They're trying to make it so that like the independent guys can't do that. Luckily, we're not there with motorcycles, but I get a lot of, people ask me, hey, can you work you have a shop, can you work a rebuild on my bike? I'm like, no, that's not.
I've seen your bikes, and you do not have the time or the resources to be working on somebody else's bike.
I keep my stuff running. Everything I have pretty much runs.
Right.
And that's that's a thing. But like with 70 bikes, you're kind of like, it's always something that's going on to keep all this stuff, keep it afloat.
It's got to be overwhelming.
But And I want more. I really need to start getting rid of some of these things. I can't ride all the adventure bikes that I have, and nor do I want to at this point. But yeah, it's how the thing is like, at what point you see, I'm going to just get this used one. It just needs the engine rebuilt and basket case bike, and that's how Matt kind of started helping me. He bought a basket case bike from another friend, and we tried to do a rebuild story. And did that bike ever get rebuilt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bike in the Box. It's on
dirt bike test.
Yeah, the full series is done.
Yeah, and what was the lesson learned? Costs more to rebuild a Bike in the Box than it does to buy a new one.
Yeah. But the whole point was I wanted to rebuild it. I wanted the experience to tear it all down and put it all back together. I did it wrong a couple times putting it back together.
And there we go. That's the learning process, the learning experience that this is the other problem, is that bikes now are getting so good that they don't really break. You don't have to fix things. And a lot of times people are like, well, I'm thinking about going and getting one of these Chinese mini bikes. And I'm like, that's a really good idea, especially for your kid. And here's why, Jay, because you're going to take it and you're going to break it, and you're going to have to figure out how to fix it. And at that point, you're going to decide whether you really like motorcycles enough, you're invested in them to go and figure out how to fix that thing. Because even though the guy at the Chinese motorcycle shop said, oh, when it breaks, you just take it to the Honda dealer, they have all the parts for it.
Yeah.
Which is not the case, and then you learn how to work on stuff. And then when you get one of these newer bikes, because you're really into it, and you upgrade to something that's good and you never have to work on it, then you do actually know how to work on it. It's a good deal.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Not necessarily. Let's try to make a good solution out of a bad problem. So look at the bright side.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about suspension, but like the best suspension modification.
Yeah.
I guess we just say spring. It's correct spring rate would be the best one. But are there any like people do coatings and they get different pistons and then they get full works level shocks. Where are you on this?
No, I'm not there. I'm like as close to stock, just rebuilding it and revalving for specific needs and springs. I am a fan of spring conversions in most of the air forks and the KTM. I typically, mainly because I ride a lot of other bikes, the Japanese bikes that all have good spring forks. Most of them, especially the Yamahas, come with such good fork stock. And when you hop onto an air fork bike, if you get somebody to help you tune it and everything, it's really good. And then the next day you go out, it's just not as good no matter what you do. And so to me, spring conversion, I don't think you need cone valves or anything, but a spring conversion of some type in your KTM. Race Tech has some great ones. They have a great single spring that's not that expensive, and then you can get dual spring conversions. There's many of them out there, different options with the WP 6500 kit or the Technical Touch kit. They're all really good, and that's the only high end thing I'd find. As far as coatings, and I've talked to enough guys out there that none of that stuff is really going to make any difference for any of us to ever notice, other than it looking cool. And in many cases, It doesn't last as long. It's more likely to get chips and more likely to wear through with those types of coatings than your regular standard forks.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I differ from you a little bit. I actually do like the air forks. I've had, like the first round of air forks were a little too complicated. I mean, the Kawasaki had
that was terrible.
3 different chambers on a single fork. But The current KTM ones, I actually like those. They're pretty good. Not as simpler as just kind of consistently good as like the Yamaha forks have been. Yamaha just never changed. They just kind of just kept the thing, and everything kind of came back around, I think. But I do like the light front end feel that the air fork can give you. But it's I can understand that, for some people, I think it just got like a kind of, for sure, it definitely got a bad rap in the beginning, and then that just carried over. And I don't think it ever really recovered.
Yeah.
So,
but
Travis Langley quickly says, is Jimmy's shirt available to buy somewhere? It will be at least by show 200. We're going to have a special order of these. I've been talking about it for a long time. We will get that out there. I sent you an email about the forum, or replied to it today. Mm-hmm. I'm going to work on this, but yes, we will have this shirt available. And this is it's the only way I'm going to be able to eat dinner tonight is people start buying these shirts, or I'm going to have to eat this taco on my shirt.
Right. And I would get one of those shirts as well for to wear on my podcast. Oh, and Donnie wants one too. So we'll wear
burrito on Burrito Wednesday morning,
right.
Breakfast burritos with Jay.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. Favorite tool of all time?
Oh, that's pretty easy. I think I knew you were going to ask this. Let me grab this.
Oh, you did. See, you cheated. I'll go ahead and, you know what?
No, I keep a few of these.
I should have.
It's a very simple
wrote
tool.
this. I wrote this. It's a countershaft holding tool, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just so simple and cool. And it's just like they're handmade. The guy cuts them out and bends them, and he stamps them. It's sprocket stuff, and he hand stamps them like boom, boom, boom. And it's just such a cool tool because you don't have to have somebody holding the rear brake or anything, and you're not putting any stress on your transmission to put a front sprocket on, and it can fit all these different sizes of front sprockets just by moving these little pins. And so it's a 13. And I believe it or not, I actually am such a baller. I bought 2 of these just for my shop here. And I keep a 13 and a 14 pre-set up. So I don't even have to move my pins. I have 2 ready to go. And I actually, just bought them. And the guy, I think he makes them in like North County, San Diego or something. And there's some shops that sell them. It's the coolest tool. And obviously I have lots of tools and plenty of good quality tools.
Here's the thing, Jay, is when I wrote this question down, because I know you're working on this all the time, and I was kind of in my head, I'm like going, he's gonna pick the tire stand. Had to pick the tire because you pimped the tire stand pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. The tire stand is huge. I mean, we get emails every day, probably 4 to 6, and some days up to 10 or more, of guys all over the country all over the world wanting the plans. So we had a really good follower who drew up the stand plans, which I had done a video showing I measured everything and just showed it on a video. And then he drew it from from that video. He drew it all out, and we get tons of people, and we post, daily, weekly of these different stands throughout the world. And it's really cool to see all the different places. And what's the main reason we like this stand is because it's really heavy duty. People go, why don't you sell them? It's just not practical because the way that I like them with the strong platform for your feet to stand on, it needs to be heavy. It'd be too impractical to ship, and it'd be too expensive.
Right. So do you have a link or any place for that countershaft sprocket tool? We asked in the chat.
I don't, but if they email me, we will, and maybe I'll send it to Matt. I don't even know. I just I actually bought it from a shop, ECC. Buzz knows where to get these at ECC. So that's where I got it.
What's it called?
Sprocket stuff, and it's called
Sprocket stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's called the Sprocket tool. I think it's very.
They got a really fancy name for it. That's you hardly even know what it is. Right. It's called the Sprocket tool,
and it says patent pending. Anyway, it's really cool. I don't know if Rocky Mountain. I think for a time Rocky Mountain was selling them. I think he has a hard time keeping up on making these, but
producing them.
Yeah, it's just really a cool tool. And it's just because I like that it's a small guy making them out of his house. He's making these things, and they're really cool. And they work so well, and makes doing a front countershaft sprocket by yourself really easy. and you don't feel like, oh, I'm not ruining my transmission. You don't have to have your bike. I don't have it in gear. I have it in neutral when I do this, and it works awesome.
Yeah. So
let me see this right here. So if you click on our link or Jimmy's link, Rocky Mountain has them available right now.
Oh, Rocky Mountain has them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So they're in abundance now. So you can go there.
Click on one of our links and we'll get a little chunk. It definitely helps us out. Hey, this show would not be possible without the help of a lot of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday sponsors. We have Amazon and Rocky Mountain links that are on our website, dirtbiketest.com. And of course, you can always support me personally by going to jimmylewisoffroad.com and then learning how to become a better rider, because in all these modifications that we've talked about tonight, the best one that you can do for your motorcycle, the absolute best modification you do to your motorcycle without fail, is to put a better rider on top of it. And I know how to help you out with that. If you're just beginning, we have a beginner rider series, and then we'll be starting up classes again in the fall when it's nice and cool. So come out and visit us. I know a couple tricks and techniques to make you a better rider. So the tire stand was my guess, and then I thought, oh, he's got to have some other kind of tools and things. I've always been a big fan of like a lot of Motion Pros tools, different things they have. Chris Carter was an awesome guy, really supported a lot of stuff in the industry.
Motion Pro, yeah.
I'm a big fan of the MP tool, the little MP tool that I carry with me when I ride. It's just a little pouch with a zipper with this thing. We have a test of it up on Dirt Bike Test, and then there's these other guys that a bunch of episodes ago, they made this other tool that's like a T-handle it's got a magnet inside of it, and the fittings pop into it. And it's on my Tenere right now, so I don't have it in the shop, but there's a lot of cool tools. But back to the tire stand, I have done a few tire changing videos lately, and I just basically set up a camera and then
I've seen them.
Raw dog, drop down on my knees, drink a beer, and change a tire. And I don't use lube. Sometimes I don't put baby powder in it. Sometimes I'm changing mousse without a stand. And in the background, there's a Rabaconda, and there's another tire stand back there. And I just do it using hand tools. Sometimes it's vice grips on the rim. It's just stuff that everybody has in their garage. And it's like, yeah, we have all the special tools, but maybe you don't. And it's here's how you can do it with 3 tire irons and a couple screwdrivers, to keep the bead down with the mousse or whatever. So, I do like tire stands though, but I don't always use them in the videos. I should probably, if you saw me using a Rabaconda, it looked like we talked about this before. What is it when a bunny rabbit does a what?
Oh, I think you're thinking about monkey with a football.
A monkey with a football. That's sometimes me using a tire stand.
I'll have to work on getting a tire stand made for you.
Yeah, a good one, right?
Yeah, and the Rabaconda is good for the dismounting mousses, and we do use one of those for dismounting mousses. Hey, I will say on tools, but Motion Pro is awesome on tools, and so two of the coolest tools that they have lately are any of the blind bearing removals are just so cool. Like for wheel bearings, instead of having to knock out and get started with a punch, getting that blind tool in there to pull that first wheel bearing out is awesome. And then they also have these dowel pin removing tools. That's really cool if you have a lot of cases and cylinders apart like we've had for our CR projects. These dowel pin things. It's something so simple, but you can mess with getting a dowel pin out of an old cylinder for like an hour. And this tool makes it so easy. So those two are two cool Motion Pro tools that we like a lot on the recent stuff.
I remember when I got their cylinder stud removing tool. Yeah. That was another one that was just game changing. It was just such a cool thing. But I mean, if you want to get a good specialized high end tool, they have something that will fit your needs for sure.
Yeah, and Mark Daniels is right. The Bead Buddy is one of my number one tools. I have 3 of them right there with my tire changing stand there.
Is that the one that holds the bead down in the dish?
Yeah,
it's the one that hooks on the spoke.
Yeah, it does what the vice grips do. Yeah.
Right. Yep. I didn't know because they have another tool that's a bead breaking tool. It's these 2 tire irons that wedge together, and it pops the bead. It's mostly for street bike tires or adventure bike tires that have a bead lock on them where you can kind of put it in there and just squeeze them together and pop it down. So I carry those out on the trail because the cheap solution is to use your kickstand to break the bead. So you have your one bike that has a flat tire, and then you bring your other bike over and put the kickstand into the bead and then lever the bike up. It's kind of hard to do when you take your wheel off and then you have no wheel on your bike to use your own kickstand. I've done it before out in the trail, but so
I would just ride that bike back to the truck, and then it would be off the bead by the time you got back.
Oh, your truck isn't 220 miles away? Oh, yeah, Jay.
That's bad karma being 220 miles away from me.
Well, it's I'm going to the other state. I want to go to the other state to go. That's what adventure bikes are for,
right?
And then at the track, I go look for Jay. Actually, Jay does. He shows up at the track and he'll change your tire for you if you're a magazine guy. I never let you change my tires either. We used to just get us the tires. We're doing it. And it wasn't because I didn't want to do it. I wanted my stinking lazy ass cohorts to learn how to change tires.
Right.
They needed to respect the work that most people have to put in to be able to do what we do. And so yeah, that's why we worked on all of our, we didn't send our bikes back to the manufacturers to get them prepped. We changed the air filter and cleaned the oil because you learn how hard it is to do, whether it's easy or hard to do certain bikes. Like I remember just loving getting Honda air filters out from in between the frame rails, right? Then you pour a bunch of dirt down the airbox and all the other stuff. I'm not really picking on anything that you're going to talk about in a few minutes. But yeah. Right before the best bike ever, where do you get your info from, Jay Clark?
Oh.
Like when you don't know how to do something and you need to learn a technique, a tip, whatever.
I do have
motorcycle wise.
Okay, so there's a chance I will Google stuff and look at videos, but I have two people I rely on a lot. David O'Connor is a good friend of mine, Irish Dave. He worked at KTM, and now he's back at KTM building engines. He's a great resource, just a really good mechanic, very mechanically inclined and very quick to think of things. So he'd be a guy I'd hit up a lot. And then I have a good buddy, Brad, Parapros, and he's been building engines for 25 years range. And as far as especially engine related stuff, he's kind of seen it all because he's done it. We're at that time of the night now. So he's a guy I get a lot of, and I get a lot of tech questions. And between those two guys, they help me a lot on some of the tech questions that I wouldn't know or be able to send somebody the right direction. So I got some really good resources that way. And then from there, if we can't solve it between those people right there, and I got something that's given us a hassle, it's we're checking with any of our other mechanic sources that are on teams and stuff. I do have a good resource of network of guys on teams in different places, medias and stuff. So, but those are the two main guys I would hit up.
Yeah, and I mean, we have the advantage of being kind of in the industry, knowing a lot of people have been doing it. There's people at every manufacturer. Some of them, a lot of them have gone now.
Yeah.
The guys that have been there for a long time that they don't have to look at a parts fiche or something where you say, hey, 1983 Honda CR250, and they're like, oh yeah, the one with the magnesium case, and that's the one the impeller does this, and then and we found that you could get this, and it's like this is your parts guy, this is your wealth of knowledge, and but I have found I've kind of found that oftentimes, if I get confused, especially about something motorcycle, I want to see it, I go online and I watch some of these videos or see the explanations. Now it's really mostly watching videos. And I'm frankly very horrified by what I see because it's either someone that's getting paid to drop a certain type of information, or you got to fix this, or you got to change that, or whatever. Or it's just not really that sound. It's not super sound advice. It's not the best way to do it. And sometimes if I do some tech tips and stuff like that, I say, this isn't the way that everybody does it, but this is how I do it. because it's not the way that, like, the way I do a lot of things is probably not the way that the owner's manual is going to tell you.
Yeah, and so we get people point that out right away. That's not what the manual says or whatever. So we run into that.
Right, and you know, some of the line mechanics that are working down at the dealership aren't doing it the way the manual says it either. They're doing it the way to get it done the quickest and the easiest. You know, because they you know, it's bitted out. This is going to take this many hours, and it's, you know, you can make a lot more by doing 2 of them in that much time. And there's steps that you can shortcut, and whether it's good. If I were building, and Mark Daniel says, Dave Chase, rest in peace, who was my mechanic back in the KTM days, and he worked at Pro Circuit and Factory Honda and stuff like that. We went and did how to rebuild a CR250R motor with him, and every part that you touch was basically taken off and replaced and double checked before it went back on, and it was to excess. It was like the manual to an excess. There was no shortcuts taken. There was no parts of it. That's factory level. And then there's Jimmy level, where my bench isn't that clean, and people are going, "Oh, look at your bench is a little bit dirty. Aren't you worried about this?" And I'm like, "No, not one bit." It's just like, so yeah, it's interesting to see where, you know, where you can go to get your info. So I have a lot of, like I said, I have the same thing, a lot of trusted resources that I know can answer the questions when I've been there. But I'm really careful about stuff that I get for, we'll call it for free. Like, I pushed a button and the information came out for free, kind of like what you're getting with this show right now. Right. That's why we have to talk about our sponsors every once in a while. Bulletproof Design, Seat Concepts, Fasst Company, Trail Tech, DDC, Climb Gear. Oh, that's gear. We need to do gear. One other question.
Did you do Takamoto? I don't know if you said that.
Takamoto. We usually do a segment called Roosterendo. So if you're not familiar with the Tech Talk Tacos Tuesday show, we do a segment called Roosterendo with Takamoto sponsors, and they give us $100. And so you send us a picture of your bike and a little description of what you've done to it, and then we talk about your bike, kind of like we talk about everything. Might pick on it, might praise you, might chastise you. And then the one that gives us the most enjoyment, we send you $100, a Takamoto gift certificate, which is pretty cool. But not this week, because this information is too good to hold back, because it's the best Tech Talk Taco Tuesday ever. So back to getting your stuff for free. Like, my friends aren't charging me. They probably should when I ask them questions. They're not charging me, but I've built some equity in our friendship and my trust, because I call some of these guys and I ask them hard questions, you know, especially when they're affiliated with a manufacturer or a brand, and you say, "Hey, what's up with this?" And they'll tell you, they'll explain it to you, and so I really appreciate that. And the thing is when they tell me something that's not very favorable, my first trip isn't to my keyboard to go pound on the keys and say, "Guess what I found out," which is kind of what happens a lot. Favorite gear, Jay? Now that I remembered it. Oh, you know what mine is? Climb.
And Climb,
because it has pockets.
Has really good gear.
Pockets.
Yeah. And
that way you can do your Instagramming better.
And a lot of this gear has pockets now. And I do have to wear a fanny pack on the ones that don't, to hold my phone.
You're not allowed to say fanny pack in Australia.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, no, it's a bum bag.
Bum bag. So, yeah, I wear the FXR gear, is a newer brand, and one of the main reasons is one of the companies that I don't care for got bought by a big company, and so now I can't wear that brand anymore. And so it's a lot of times gear is, for the most part, just looks cool. Now, Climb, like the Climb stuff you're talking about, it's a more higher end gear that's more expensive, but also lasts a lot longer, really purpose built for trail riding, has longer warranties and stuff like that. Most of the guys that I'm dealing with, and we're all looking for something that looks cool, and we're going to wear 2 or 3 different sets throughout the year and can change our look up. Most guys buying Climb gear are going to buy one set for like 5 years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, you know, back in the day having a, you know, I got 20% off or 30% off or something with gear, but you know, it was like you would go to the shop and like do they have, and that was before the internet, do they have like the last year stuff that they were trying to get rid of? And it was like, well, that stuff still looks okay.
Right.
And so I know that a lot of these, guys are looking at the closeout things. And but yeah, for me, I wore some of the very first climb gear, and there was just something about it, because they were combining like this durability with functionality and it wasn't flashy. It was just it's just like, okay, that's me. It's funny. That just drives, what
right.
the way I kind of work on. And it's interesting because they were snowmobile guys, and they sent some stuff to the magazine, and I actually ended up picking the pants as one of my products of the year.
Yeah.
And it's probably not for everybody, but for me. And I said, this is really good for these reasons. And I complained about a couple things, and like, it didn't take but a few weeks. They sent down another pair of pants, like, try these. And all the little things that I incorporated in, they kind of threw in there. And it was pretty cool. But if I go best gear ever, this segment's brought to you by Climb, by the way. Some of the best gear I ever wore was when Fox got into the super technical fabrics and some of the they really thought about stretch panels. And it was when they made one of their first high-end boot. And this was probably 15, 17 years ago. They were spending way too much money. And I remember wearing that gear and going, okay, this is kind of game changing. Just like the fit was different. And this, all of a sudden, I swear it felt like you were not wearing any gear, but it was gear. And that's like, I just went to an Alpine Stars intro, and that's what all their riders said. And you could tell when they were saying scripted stuff, but when they were saying what they really felt about the gear, they said, I like it when I can't tell. I don't notice my gear. And that's, and at the time, like, the Fox gear also looked really good. It was like kind of on the trend setting stuff. Hard for me to tell, but everybody else said it looked pretty good. But, and now you look forward, roll forward 15, 20 years, everybody's doing that kind of a line. They have that high performance thing. The materials are getting so much better.
And most of that stuff
stretch
is better.
panels and
most of that stuff's better for guys that are in shape and fit. And so I don't fall into that category. So I like my stuff a little looser and baggier to not accentuate those other lines, So for me, that part doesn't matter.
Jay, that's where they're fixing it. They realize who's buying it. It's guys like us that got a little, I call it my camel front. It's my extra energy for when I go riding. I don't have to carry it on my back. I installed it earlier, but they're actually building gear for regular sized people that has these features incorporated into it, because it doesn't have to hug you and tighten you. It's just, they put the sweat panels in the right place, and if there's any sort of protection, or just the collars, or set the pants, they whether they go into the boot, over the boot, whatever they do, pockets. Like, I found a pocket in one of my Climb kind of technical jerseys that I didn't even know existed. It was kind of over on the side. And it was like, oh, they got a little pocket in this thing. That's pretty cool. So,
okay. We should touch on, I do like Alpine Star. I insist on Alpine Star boots, Tech 10s, and their new helmet is incredible. So, and with helmet technology, there's a lot of really good lightweight helmets out there now, that I think more than there was. And so,
and we don't know. Lightweight is important.
And as far, the lightweight for me is important, because I notice if I have a helmet that's a half a pound heavier than a different helmet at the end, especially trail riding, but with any of it, especially my age, my neck is really sore, like crazy sore. The next day, it's really tough. So a lightweight helmet to me helps.
And if you use the helmet, the lightweight, when you actually use it to protect your head, that way F equals MA. Lightweight does improve. Unless it's a catastrophic hit, then you need as much protection as you can. But generally, less weight of a helmet tends to yield better results in impact studies. Good on that. Okay, question of the night. The best bike ever. And what I want to start this out by, I think this is how I got you hooked here, because you definitely have one, and right away you started making sense. Can you guess what I'm going to pick?
Well, I know you love that Husaberg 570.
Okay, and in the chat, if you want to throw up your picks in the chat, I might rattle some of these things off over time. Conrad already just went YZ 125, and Conrad's a guy that needs some help rebuilding. He's one of the guys that has sent me information about rebuilding. He kept putting his YZ 125 back together, but he left the pieces from the old piston back in the bottom end.
Nice.
It's a common mistake. It happens. But okay, so here we go. So you're thinking I'm going to go Husaberg 570.
Yeah, so it's possible. So this is when you pitched me on this show the other day, I didn't prep for any of the other questions. You just brought up this one as a potential question. And as soon as you asked me, I immediately answered. And that's why I kind of didn't want to prep on any of the answers. I didn't want to be all jaded. But this is the one and I immediately thought of what I would say.
Yeah, no, and I right away I said that's a good one, but then you explained it and it got even better. Well, so go ahead. We're going to do yours, and then if at some point your brain thinks you might know what mine is, it's going to be now. Mark, you can't have three. Okay, so go ahead, Jay. What's your bike? It can be a year range too. By the way,
it's the 05 to 08 Honda 450, and the 08 was obviously the best one. And the reason for that is I feel like from the 08 Honda 450 was kind of the best bike, and it would have won shootouts for probably a couple more years at least, as it was stock for 09, 10 in that range. The bike was kind of measured. Everybody measured the other bikes off of that bike. That bike was so good for that period of time. So from 05 to 08, even a little bit before that, but 05 to 08, that bike was amazing stock. The suspension's good. The durability was amazing. Honda and only had 2 oil compartments in that engine, and for the beginning of the Honda 450, and from 05 to 08, the durability was so good on all the stock components, the bikes could really be beat. And one of the reasons that I stick with this bike is because that's also the bike that the Honda 450X is, the 05 Honda 450X. There's a little bit of difference to an 06, but so from that bike to 17 is the same bike, that carbureted bike that's won all the Baja races and is just the standard for a lot of guys even today are still running that bike, like in Baja and many places. That bike is really good. It's really bulletproof. And I think because it has 2 oil compartments that you don't have the clutch contaminants messing with the piston and valves and so forth. So that bike is really durable. That 450X is just a standard. It's really good. You could, and I still like finding them. I fixed up a few over the last few years. If you find them for a good deal, they're still a great bike. And if you can find one of those with low hours, it's worth fixing up and having as a good bike, as your good desert bike, open. Obviously, it's not great on the tight trails, but as far as anything else, it's amazing. And so the Honda 450 for me was that bike, and in that generation, that time frame was just the best bike. And I think everybody chased that bike for a long time. And I think the Kawasaki 450. That was the favorite bike for 5 or 6 years after 08. Was modeled a lot after the CRF 450.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so it had that same bulletproof feel, and that's why I think that the Honda 450 is that, because everybody kind of copied it, so to speak, to be with that. And I'm sure there's going to be many great bikes coming out right now, and there's bikes that I like better. I like a KTM 350 with my 6500 kit or spring conversions on it. That's one of my favorite bikes to ride. But as far as best bike all time, I would have to go with that Honda 450.
I think that's a pretty unanimous slam dunk. For every reason you said, when you brought in the whole X thing and how long the X lasted with that sort of that platform, and stuff, and I remember those, and they were so from 5 to 6 to 7, that bike just getting that much better, just refining it at 8. And then when they went to the 09, and I was a really big fan of the 09 because the characteristics that Honda chose were things that I actually liked. I liked the way the fuel injection mellowed the motor out a certain amount and made it, for me, easier ride. But all the stuff that they changed, which if I liked it, that probably meant that most people didn't. Right. So it was a little bit. I remember that 08, that was such a good bike. By the way, this segment brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha makes the 2023 YZ450, which could be the bike of the century. You never know. I rode one and I overjumped the big road jump in Washougal, and I still lived. So pretty good. I hadn't ridden one until I went to Washougal, and Mike Ulrich, they had some bikes up there for the Alpine Stars gear intro, and man, that thing has a lot of power. That's a lot of power. So everybody thinks I'm going to pick a Husaberg. That's why I'm drinking right now, so I can go off of I got to have a couple drinks just to settle my nerves here, because I'm really going to do my Husaberg love a little disservice here. But the Husaberg 570, which is what, I used to talk about that bike forever and ever. But previous to that, there was the Husaberg 650, which was the old, Swedish Husaberg. And I got one of those, like me and Ray Conway were sitting around talking about one. I actually went and bought a couple of them because I wanted to experience that motor again. Because, nothing makes power like that. Not even the new Yamaha. And if it wasn't for that bike making so much power, and then them making that KTM version of the 570, so taking the KTM motor, which, hey, guess what, Jay? 2 oil compartments, that thing that Honda did really well, and KTM just couldn't quite figure out. Well, the Husaberg guys looked at that and said, nah, that's not the way to do it. So they went back and turned the motor upside down, crooked, backwards, however they did in the 570. That was the first, quote, fuel-injected KTM, the Husaberg 570. And that's part of the project, how they allowed them to make this. They said, you develop our fuel injection. Nobody at KTM would even ride that Husaberg. It was like, look at that weird pile of crap. Like, why do we even care about this? And they were meanwhile working on that KTM 530, which is really a 2008 to 2010 mistake in the KTM lineage of the large displacement 4-stroke. But when that Husaberg started getting incredible reviews, and their baby 530 was getting tortured in the media, they actually went and finally wrote it and said, "Oh wow," and I heard some things like they were well on their way to the KTM 500, the new one, and that whole thing got scrapped because they're like, "Hey, everybody better ride and try this thing." So my bike is any year KTM 500 EXC. And it's that because if you had one bike that's so versatile that you could do almost anything on, it's the same platform as the KTM 450 SX. You got 50 cc's more, makes less horsepower, has the wrong ECU in it. Has lights you can take off, but it's got the heart of a motocross bike. But then you can take this bike out and almost go do extreme enduro on it. It has this wide. You can turn it from a dual sport bike with some luggage and stuff and a big gas tank into an adventure bike, and you can strip it down and make it work on a motocross track. Yeah, it has PDS suspension, and people think that's junk too, but I don't. It'll get the job done. So I'm going with any year KTM 500 EXC, and there was a really good time around 2016 to 2018 where the emissions requirements weren't so strict, and there was still enough motorcycle there, because they've made that bike lighter and lighter, and I think with some of that lightweight, it's not just 9 pounds lighter. There's 9 pounds less motorcycle. And I haven't seen the durability decline, but I worry a little bit about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you talked about that Honda being just rock solid durable.
Yeah.
And you're listening to two guys that have been around this industry for a long time. And we keep coming back to that durability. And even for guys that work on motorcycles all the time, we like durability, something that's going to last, something that's built well. Something that has a track record. It's lasted for a few years. It wasn't like a one and done sort of a thing. So thanks to the Husaberg, we have a KTM 500 that I think that would be my and if I don't know anything about you, say, hey, I want to get into dirt bikes and I want to ride. I just literally say KTM 500. I used to not even hesitate to give that answer. Now I hesitate a little bit because Yamaha is a big sponsor of the show. And I try to figure out what Yamaha would fit into your needs because I'm just a shill for all of my sponsors, as you are too, right, Jay?
Well, yeah, but Yamaha has a lot of, companies like that have a lot of different offerings, and there are bikes. I wish Yamaha would make a 350, for instance, but they don't. But those, I think they're coming.
A 350, a 300 two-stroke,
yeah,
and a dual sport bike.
A real dual sport, yeah, not a street bike.
That's why I can say the KTM 500 because there's Yamaha doesn't even acknowledge that market exists. Right. They don't even make one. They're saying we're not there. If they made one, it would be the best, right? Because it's Yamaha, right?
I think it would be really good. I can't argue with that.
Hey, the good thing, and this is what's cool about having them as a sponsor, is they know we tell it like it is. They say, hey, we want to support your show, and they do make really good bikes, and they you can't be sponsored by Yamaha and say the KTM is the best bike ever. But guess what? We had advertisers in the magazine that paid a lot more than sometimes the companies that won the shootouts. And I didn't care because my customer is not my advertiser. My customer is the person, the rider.
Right.
And that's I still feel that way today. And that's why I work with all the companies I work with. And I think you're the same way.
Yeah. And when you do this deal, I've been doing this deal for over 30 years. So I want to, and now it's become much more personal. People are emailing us and DMing us, and and much more interactive with people, right? And if I recommend something or tell somebody to do something or a bike to buy, I don't want them really bummed at me later. I want to really try to help them and direct them in the right way. And
well, it's your credibility.
Yeah.
Is now your brand is your credibility. Right. It's what you say. It's how you do things. And yeah, you have it's like, if I can recommend a sponsor of this show, if I know it's going to solve your problem, I'd love to do that, or just a brand that's helped me out or whatever. But if I know that it's absolutely not the right product to you, I'm not going to try to shove it down your throat.
Right.
I'm going to say, like I always say, like with the tires, for instance, it's like, yeah, I run Kenda tires, but if you don't like this characteristic or that, there's probably some better options. And so I think that's why we've been around for this long, is we're able to kind of tell it like it is and do different things.
Oh, for sure.
So, well, that's I was thinking it was going to be a bombshell. We were going to drop the Husaberg, and then Jay was going to pick if you had to pick a really weird, how about RM250 1996, 7?
I don't know.
You don't remember those?
Yeah, I remember. I had one. I rode some there, but back in there, I think the Hondas before, when they were steel frames up until 96.
Steel frames, yeah. Those were good.
Frame 96, I'd probably rather have one of those than a Suzuki. And then when they went to the aluminum frame, we wouldn't want those for those 3 years until they went to like 2000. Those were a lot better. But as far as I don't know that there's very many bikes out there that would even come to what I feel like that Honda 450 was. Obviously, I know that throughout time, like from the 70s, all through the 70s and 80s, as somebody added a monoshock and added a disc brake in the front, and then disc brake in the rear, and then water cooling, and all those things that got added, those all were little steps to making bikes to what they are today. Each one was a step. As far as the best bike, I think that '08 Honda 450 is what brought the last 15 years of bikes to where it is.
Right. And one thing I was going to say is like, dude, that thing has a carburetor on it. But, even when we were talking earlier, you're not too scared of carburetors.
No. And if they're set up well, and the big thing is that they're actually working, that the pilot jet's not partially clogged.
Well, there we go. You talking about something that's when you have 70 motorcycles and some have carburetors, those ones, it's like almost like owning a horse. You almost have to work on the damn thing every once in a while, where the fuel injected bikes, man, start right up. So if I was going to shoot down your Honda one, I'm like, if that thing had fuel injection, but back then fuel injection wasn't what it is today.
Right.
It was different. So yeah, that was definitely, even, this whole transition to 4-strokes and the fact that both of us picked, 4-strokes, I really interested to see where 2-strokes go and, coming with some of this stuff, but I don't think everybody's going to jump back on, and we're emerging in this age of electronic bikes and electric, and who knows where that's going to take us.
Hopefully nowhere. So let's not talk about.
Could you lose your entire fan base by embracing electric anything?
Yeah, no.
Maybe.
So I have an electric blower that I'm liking, and that's about it because electric blows, so we can just stay with it.
Yeah, I've got electric blower, chainsaw, all the things that I thought I would never do, and it's coming, Jay. I kid you not that it's maybe not really right here ready for prime time, but they're going to be so good. It's when they figure this stuff out. It's the only thing you're not going to get is the noise, and I came up with a patent pending idea to fix this whole problem last week on the show. So you're gonna have to watch Tech Talk Taco Tuesday episode number 196 to steal my idea from me. But other than that, hey, thanks a lot for coming on. This is super fun.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a good time.
It's like a conversation we'd have, like, driving out to the riding area.
Yeah, I'll try to stop. I need when I'm driving through on a Tuesday, it's better to stop in there.
Yeah, or do it on another day. We'll just pre-record the damn thing. That way I don't have to be here on a Tuesday. I can go to the bar or whatever, not wake up, I guess be asleep by 7:00, whatever I do. So, good times. I'll take you on a mellow trail ride. We won't go up any gnarly canyons. We because it was wet, we went south when I would like to take you north.
Okay.
Out of here. So, but good time. Yeah, bring me a bike to ride. Bring me a project bike that's like all jimmied out, flex bars,
right?
Has to have a Trail Tech computer on it, seat concept seat.
Yep. And a Recluse, auto clutch.
Recluse. You can do Recluse. It doesn't have to have one, but I like a Recluse here. We'll probably, if you brought me a Recluse, I promise you, Jay, I'd take it and I'd ride around and I'd turn around and come back. I'd lay it over inside, pop the cover off, and I'd pull the thing out and I'd change a couple springs and wedges inside there and go, here's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. When it's good, you've gotten that good at adjusting them. Also, for whatever it's worth, on like Recluse, for instance, they make torque drive clutches that are more like a manual clutch, just like conventional clutch.
Really good.
And they work really good. And I just think people will say the term, you got a Recluse, and it's like, okay, you got a Recluse auto clutch, not a Recluse torque drive. So there's a big difference between the two. And we really like, the torque drives, what's in this Yamaha I rode at Glen Helen today.
Got one in my YZ125. Yeah, I put one in, and it was kind of funny because I was practicing starts. I was actually doing a tire test. And I was doing a lot of starts, and my clutch started going bad. I'm going to get one of these, and wow, what a difference!
That's cool.
Like it's kind of surprising that something like that. It's more plates in the smaller area, so all good. Hey, well, thanks everybody for joining in. Watch us. If you like this, like, subscribe, follow. What else do you tell people to do?
Comment, subscribe.
Put my tagline on a carrier pigeon and put it on its leg and fly it away, and then maybe people will start liking the show. So, anyways, follow at Dirtbike TV1. What's your kid's thing?
Dirtbike TV2. It's very complicated.
He's number 2. Got it. That's all right. Number 2. So. Good to see you, and for everybody joining in, we will see you out in the trail. So cheers, everybody.